Have you ever heard of the Titanic? It was a super big ship. It was built a very long time ago. People called it the Unsinkable ship. This meant they thought it could never, ever sink. Everyone was so excited for its first amazing trip. It was the biggest, grandest ship in the whole world. What an incredible adventure it was going to be. Building the Titanic was a truly enormous job. Many strong and skilled workers built it in Belfast, Ireland. It took 3 long years for them to finish it. Can you imagine a ship as long as 3 big football fields? That is exactly how long the Titanic really was. It was also very tall, just like a big building. It had 4 giant tall funnels on its top. Fun fact, only 3 funnels actually let out smoke. Inside, the Titanic was like a beautiful, fancy hotel. It had wonderful big rooms for rich people. There was a very grand staircase for them to walk down. It even had its own swimming pool for guests. And there was a gym where people could exercise. There were lovely little cafes and big restaurants too. It was just like a floating palace sailing on the sea. So much amazing luxury was packed onto this one ship. The Titanic was finally ready for its first big journey. This very first trip is often called a maiden voyage. It was going to sail from England, across the huge Atlantic Ocean. Its final stop was going to be New York City in America. So many people from all over wanted to be on this special trip. They waved goodbye to their families from the shore. It sailed away from the dock in April, in the year 1912. A feeling of great adventure was in the salty sea air. Many different kinds of people were on the Titanic. There were very wealthy people traveling in first class. They had very big, beautiful rooms and even servants. Then there were also people traveling in second class. They also had nice, comfortable cabins to stay in. And many hopeful families were traveling in third class. They were all hoping for a new, better life in America. Everyone on board had their own dreams for this journey. Some quite famous people were sailing on board the Titanic. Captain Edward Smith was the captain of the great ship. He was a very experienced and well-respected sea captain. This trip was actually going to be his very last one. John Jacob Astor IV was a very rich man. He was known as one of the richest men in the world then. There was also a brave lady named Margaret Molly Brown. She later became famous as the Unsinkable Molly Brown. The many crew members on board worked very hard. There were hundreds and hundreds of them all over the ship. Some of the sailors helped to steer the ship and kept watch. Engineers worked deep down to keep the huge engines running. Cooks in the kitchens made tasty food for thousands of people. Stewards and stewardesses helped all the passengers with their needs. They all wanted everyone to be happy, comfortable, and safe. Fun fact, the Titanic even had its own little post office on board. Life on the big Titanic was very exciting for many passengers. Passengers could take long walks on the wide, open decks. They could breathe in the fresh, salty sea air deeply. Children often played fun games with their new shipboard friends. People ate lots of delicious food in the big dining rooms. There was lovely music playing and dancing for some people. For a few wonderful days, it was a very happy place. The long ocean journey seemed peaceful, calm, and full of fun. One very cold night, the Titanic was sailing quite fast. It was April 14th in the year 1912, a calm Sunday. The night sky was clear and filled with twinkling stars, but the dark ocean water was freezing, dangerously cold. The ship was sailing through the North Atlantic Ocean. This part of the ocean was known to sometimes have icebergs. Icebergs are giant, floating pieces of ice in the sea. The ship's lookouts were high up, watching carefully for any danger. Suddenly, one of the lookouts shouted, "Iceberg right ahead!" A huge, dark, and silent iceberg was directly in front of the ship. The hard-working crew tried very hard to turn the Titanic, but the enormous ship was just too big and going too fast. It could not turn away from the danger in enough time. The Titanic scraped its side hard along the giant iceberg. This made long, deep holes in the ship, hidden under the water. Oh no. This was very bad news for everyone. At first, many of the passengers did not even know. Some of them felt just a little shake or a small bump. They did not think it was anything serious at all. But the captain and the ship's officers knew the truth. Cold seawater was rushing fast into the bottom of the ship. The famous Unsinkable ship was actually starting to sink. The captain knew they needed to get help very quickly. He ordered his radio men to send out SOS distress signals. The crew quickly told people to put on their warm life jackets. They started to get the lifeboats ready to lower them down. But then, everyone realized there was a very big problem. The Titanic did not have nearly enough lifeboats on board. There was not enough room in them for everyone to escape. The important rule was women and children must go first. It was a very scary, confusing, and sad time for all. People were very worried about their friends and their families. The giant, beautiful Titanic began to tilt more and more. The front part of the ship, called the bow, went under the water first. The bright lights on the ship flickered and then went out. Then, with a very loud and terrible noise, the ship broke in two. Slowly, both big pieces of the ship sank into the dark, icy ocean. It disappeared completely beneath the cold waves forever that night. More than 1,500 people lost their lives in the sea. It was a truly terrible and heartbreaking tragedy in the ocean. Some lucky people made it safely into the few lifeboats. They floated on the very cold, dark water for hours. They waited and hoped for help to arrive soon. A ship called the Carpathia heard the Titanic's SOS calls. The brave Carpathia raced as fast as it possibly could to help. It took many long hours for it to reach the sad area. The kind crew of the Carpathia rescued 705 survivors. They took them all safely to their destination in New York. The whole world was completely shocked by the Titanic disaster. How could the amazing unsinkable ship actually sink so fast? People everywhere learned many important lessons from this sad event. New safety rules were made for all ships that sail. Ships now had to carry enough lifeboats for every single person. They also had to have regular lifeboat drills for practice. Radios on ships had to be on and listened to 24 hours a day. An international ice patrol was started to watch carefully for icebergs. The story of the Titanic is a very sad one to tell, but it changed how people travel on ships by sea forever. It helped to make all ships much, much safer for everyone. We still remember all the people who were on the Titanic. We learn from this story that safety is always very important. Fun fact: in the year 1985, scientists finally found the Titanic. It rests very deep at the bottom of the cold ocean. It reminds us all of its incredible and unforgettable story.